Okay, let's get started, okay? Call to order 5 after 1. Item number 1, public comment on non-agenda items. Anybody in the audience?
Oh,
Okay, go ahead.
hi everyone.
Hi.
I would like for you to please save the date, November 4th. We're going to bring a speaker that we heard in Houston. His name is Rob Johnstone, and his topic is called Beyond Financial Aid. And I'm trying to get the flyer out as soon as possible, but I know our calendars get really booked. And so the Academic Senate and the Faculty Association both agreed he was a very helpful presenter. There's going to be a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner session so that people can come during those times. And hopefully teachers can figure out a way to either join us for one of those sessions. And then November 10th, we're bringing Dr. Darla Cooper from the Research and Practice Group. And she did her and her team, they did a study called Student Success Redefined. And there's 6 factors that they'll share that we should be focusing on as a college. And so I'm really looking forward to this. And I'm telling you, people outside of our college, they look at us and say, wow, you're bringing in these national speakers. This is incredible. So we're bringing professional learning opportunities to the college where we would normally go to conferences and see these people giving keynote addresses. So I just want to thank Dr. Verdian because he's friends with Rob Johnstone and was able to work it out to get him the only day he's available for the rest of the year.
Ooh. Wow.
So, and he's squeezing us in because he's got to be in Seattle the night of our events that day. So please just put a save the date and I'll get all the details out as soon as I can.
Okay. Any other public comment? All right. Approval of the agenda. Do you have a motion to approve the agenda as is?
Motion.
Okay. Moved by Julie, seconded by Valerie. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Abstention? Opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. For discussion and consultation, an item that will probably be of great importance to the college, BP AP 7150, Performance Evaluation of Administrators. And you all have an opportunity to take a look at it.
Deborah, had we done this with your group? That was my understanding that was still pending, or?
So, my understanding of the way policies go through college council is they come to council and then we take them back to our senates and constituents and review. And so this policy is scheduled to be on my agenda on October 21st.
Okay.
So that'll be our first read.
Okay.
So 1021, and then
Yeah.
the second read would be like 11 something.
Yeah.
And then what will happen after that?
So if we need to vote to approve it, then we can do that. Or we might be able to fast track it and do it after the first read. I have pushed those documents out, so my people have had access to the actual documents. But I wouldn't feel comfortable until I discuss it with my Senate board as far as their comfort level with whether we are okay with fast tracking it. And it would be helpful if the college council is asking us to fast track it, that we put that in the minutes.
Yes, Jean?
Yeah, to go along with Deborah, it's really important that we, classified Senate, know what the process is. And I understand that there's many policies and different things that are going on right now that we do need to fast track for accreditation, but it really needs to come through College Council so we know exactly where we're at, what we need to do. That way we can do the service of PCC.
Ryan, could you tell us what the process is for approving BPs and APs?
The general process is, it really depends on what the BP and AP represent. As an example, there's about 7 board policies and administrative procedures right now that are primarily 10+1 items, and those begin in the Academic Senate even prior to coming to College Council because we can't change them. We need the Academic Senate to bring the provision of the changes. For the general administrative procedures and board policies, they usually start in College Council, or They could also start in a particular committee that has oversight over that area. So as an example, if PMP as the accreditation standing committee could ask certain constituent groups to begin reviewing policies to make sure that there's recommendations to be had. Because otherwise what we'd be bringing to College Council is the existing policy and saying we need to review this. We do that sometimes, but other times it will come from a different area. So in this case, the actual impetus for the BP and AP change, Julie, was
The accreditation report.
the accreditation report and the recommendation. So because this group is the one that has the central authority over that board policy and administrative procedure, they draft the changes and then they bring it to the other constituent groups in College Council for final approval.
Yeah, so
Bob?
maybe another general way to answer the question is we have various standing committees of the College Council. Things that pertain to those standing committees go through that and come up to College Council. Things that are academic senate go through academic senate, come to the College Council. And then you've got occasional things like this that pop up that come from administration into the College Council. But the first reading, second reading is always part of our process. And unless we're up against a real time constraint, I would think that this one could go back through classified senate so that they can have their time to do what they need to do, management association, the same thing. Are we up against any particular time constraint with this?
Julie, Joe, what has been the direction from Kathy in terms of the timeline for this?
I think if it's done in November, early November, you said would be your second read, do you guys have to do?
Well, that's my
Yes.
question. So we were told that we couldn't get approved, we have to approve, we couldn't approve
This
it.
was presented to the board
Information item.
as an information item.
So why does classified get to approve it and we don't?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question.
It should be an information item.
It should be an information item. If it is an information item for faculty, it should be an information item for classified as well.
So, and I think that's another argument for everything. In the past, the policies have primarily come through College Council, and that's why it's helpful to have these discussions so that we're all on the same page when we're reviewing a policy, who's doing what and the extent, and if it's information. I mean, if we don't have this venue to get that information out, then it can be very confusing.
In the spirit of transparency, let me ask this question to everybody,
Yes.
okay? Why is it an information item for faculty and not an information item for classified?
I think
Right. So I think we were under the impression from Crystal originally
Okay.
that it was an information item for everybody.
that's right.
And then this conversation started and it sounded like that wasn't the case.
Okay, now the next question based on your answer is, if you can answer that question, because we need to be able to answer that question if you are asked that question. When is a policy for review by everybody, and when is a policy only for an information item?
Usually it depends on what the policy is related to. So if it's 10+1 and it's also in one of the areas listed in the classified senate's purview, then it would have to be approved by both. So things like accreditation tend to be approved by both. So then those have to go through. But things like curriculum would go through academic senate and on to College Council. In cases like this, this is in regarding the management's evaluation, so it's part of the Management Association's list.
Let's say somebody makes the case that,
However, it does involve classified senate and academic senate making appointments.
that's what I was going to say, since it involves the classified senate and the academic senate naming the participants in that process. What if, for example, they say, well, we don't want to name anybody? What would you tell them? I'm just asking, I don't know, and since this conversation started, this is coming.
That won't be the statement. The statement is why do we only get 10
10.
people?
Only
Okay, no, I'm just asking,
That's
so.
what was, said yesterday.
So let me hear. Julie, anything you want to? No, I mean,
I can just tell you guys some of the background to this if you guys really want to hear the background to this. background to this is we need to make a couple changes for accreditation in terms of making sure that the planning process, that managers are evaluated on the planning process, the evaluation assessment of outcomes, whether that be student learning outcomes, student service outcomes, or administrative outcomes. And as part of that, we also need to change the due date for the evaluations because right now they're due at July 31st for the whole prior academic year, and that's not enough time. So we certainly need more time to get that all done. So that's the change to the policy. So the procedure's changing to add more specific language about, to the evaluation instrument. And then there was a lot of a push to go back to the 360 evaluations that we used to do on managers sometime. But that has to be something that can be administered, right? Because some managers have 100 people that report to them between faculty, full-time adjunct, and classified. Some managers don't. We wanted to make sure that it was manageable for whatever department, institutional effectiveness that was having to send out the surveys or HR keeping track of them and all of that it was a manageable process, but that the constituency groups got equal say in presenting people. So we said up to 10 was what they came to because that would be 30 total 360 evaluations. And there was a lot of discussion about academic managers versus classified managers, right? Because classified managers don't have faculty who report to them. So would the Senate really need to appoint 10 or would they want to appoint less? That's why we said up to 10. And that way, if they felt like they didn't have 10 people that they thought would be good evaluating this particular manager, they didn't have to, or vice versa. If it's an academic manager and they only have a couple classified staff, maybe the classified Senate didn't want to, but they still have that opportunity. Okay. So the discussion was trying to make sure that it was manageable, but also that there was an opportunity for all of the groups to have some say.
And I think that the key word here is manageability, because we did the math out and we realized how many people were going to be involved in this process, and it would become at a certain point unwieldy, right? And more of, if I can add to what you were saying, Julie, it was my initial expectation was that the only thing that even might possibly be considered for action by the Senates would have been the board policy rather than the administrative policy. Mm-hmm. Right, and so there was a very, very minor change, which is a change in the due date of those only on the board policy. And our concern is that as we own this process, and I think that we have tried to provide a very fair, equitable, and efficient mechanism for this, that would be sufficient to
Now correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
The board policy is the only one that needs to be approved by the board. The AP is not approved by the board.
Right.
Once it clears College Council, it gets posted. Right? So the AP is calling for some changes in the language. And that from what I see, the AP is including certain things that were not present in the evaluation process before. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, how was it done before?
So currently, managers are only getting a supervisory evaluation and a self-evaluation. And it doesn't include the specific language that it needs to on the SLOs. But prior to me being here, and I don't know how far prior, at some point in the past, there was a 360 evaluation for managers, but that was stopped, I believe, in 2012 or 2011.
Maybe even earlier than that,
Yeah, 2011 or 12.
So from my understanding, from what you're saying right now, is that the managers, through their management association, want to be more transparent in the way they are evaluated.
Yes.
We are restoring a process.
They want to give
and
faculty,
enriching it.
right? They want to give faculty and staff an opportunity to give input on their evaluation.
Yeah, we think that's very
And
valuable.
that is very, to a certain extent, that parallels what happens with classified and with faculty. The faculty, through their association, right, negotiate how they will be evaluated.
Yes.
The classified, through their association, negotiate how they are going to be evaluated. The faculty, the administrators, want to provide an opportunity for faculty and for staff to give input in their evaluation.
Exactly.
Right? And the faculty, the managers have discussed that with me, right? And I was very impressed at the fact that the managers have come forward and have said that they would want to hear input from faculty and from staff. And I, as the college president, I would support their request in the sense that they are coming forward, they are offering an opportunity for people to give input. And as to the number, I mean, I hear what you just said. I mean, why 10? Why not more than 10? And Classified are saying the same thing. And I've heard an answer from Julie and from Joe as to it has to be manageable. Somebody has to be able to sit down and tally that information. Somebody has to be able to do it in a confidential manner, removing the names of the people giving the comments, copying all those comments so that the manager, being evaluated with the help of his or her supervisor, can go over what the type of feedback given to him. Okay, so can we hear from the classified and the faculty on that?
I don't mind if that's the way it is. I'm just hearing inconsistent processes, and I'm saying if there is a first and second read in classified, then I'm obliged to have a first
Yes.
and second read in my room
Okay.
as well. And so Joe presented it as an information item yesterday, and that was based on Crystal telling me what you just said, that we have no purview over this. So.
To a certain extent, Crystal is correct in the sense that the faculty, when they negotiate their evaluation through their association, it is done in a negotiation process, the district negotiating with the faculty. The same applies for the classified evaluation. The various unions negotiate the process with administration. And the management does not have a union. So the management and association negotiates their process with the college president. Okay, and then we bring it to college council. But I think as what you're saying, I mean, you need a first and second reading.
So firstly, so I've been involved with my Senate for a long time.
Right.
And I think it's within the last couple years that we decided as a Senate to adopt the academic Senate model of first read, second
Okay,
read, because it
right.
seemed like that was a manageable way to get policies through our board. And I did get an email from Joe in September in regards to this, but I guess as long as I've been kind of doing this sort of leadership, that I'm used to these policies coming through college council. So until I saw it on this agenda, it didn't really, I mean, it didn't kick the lever to get me to agendize it on my agenda, which is
Right.
why we haven't seen it yet.
Right.
May I ask a question in 2 seconds? So this process of one first read, second read would apply in the event that this would be something that's subject to your approval. Is that correct?
Yes.
But if it was presented as an information item,
So the difference
Clearly.
is if you want input or not any input, because I guess the way I view the first and second read is that they have to take it back and actually read it and then come back and give input. Yeah, of course, if we don't need to give input, then do you need a second read? I mean, maybe not.
as a courtesy, I shared this with an additional campus constituency, which was with Julie Kiotis, the Faculty Association.
And I sent mine out to the classified unions as well after I consulted with you
Right.
about it.
Right, and Julie recognized that she had no force with respect to that document, but did make a couple of recommendations, did have a couple of questions. And I answered them to her, you know, it's entirely up to her whether she found that a satisfactory answer or not. But I did try to make that as transparent as possible, and I want to make sure that you guys understand that as we move forward here. I also recognize that we are dealing with a timeline, whether we can articulate that in a finite way immediately or not. I mean, we're trying to accomplish a great deal, and we are operating very much in good faith, and I think that Julie can corroborate that on the basis of the conversations that we've had. So that's my piece, just to let you know what's going on.
So where do we go from here?
Well, the board policy is very simple. I mean, it's just a matter of, it just goes from, it is the policy of the Pasadena Area College that's changed to the district shall ensure, and each year by August 31st instead of July 31st. So the policy in itself is not being changed.
Right.
It's just a matter of date and changing, calling the community college as the district. But it's the AP that is undergoing the changes. Now, since the AP does not need board approval, so would that be okay if by the middle of November it clears College Council the middle of November, Julie? Or is
Yeah,
that too late?
I think it'll be okay with Kathy, right, if it's by the middle of November?
Well, we've been asked to provide write-ups for each of the recommendations by November 7th,
Okay.
so we can write it up in anticipation of it passing.
Mhm. Do we have a November College Council
So
meeting?
I'm still a little bit.
Are we doing a first
unclear.
read, second read, or an information only, I guess?
Right.
Right.
It would be my respectful recommendation that the BP and the AP as a point of information
Uh-huh.
should be brought forward to the Senates.
Yeah,
And they, are welcome as a body here on campus to respond as they wish, with the understanding, and recommendations would always be considered, but with the understanding that this was an information item, and that was the intention from the very beginning of it. I think
and the
that
rationale for it being an information item is what was articulated earlier on.
Yes,
Each group negotiates their contract, the evaluation of their members directly with the district.
correct,
That's the basis for that.
yes.
Okay.
So you still need to take it as an information item then, the procedure?
Yes.
I think that our Senate would at least, like the courtesy of having it at one Senate meeting. If we need to fast track it, then we can have that, if that's indicated, then we can try to do that. But especially if it's for, so see when it comes on here saying for approval, if it says for
Right.
information or something, then that helps me gauge where I'm going with it too. So I think we need to be crystal clear when we're agendizing these things so that everybody knows what we're doing with them. And then I think
Deborah
it's
makes a
fair
good
to
point.
have.
I think
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think.
No,
you
that's
make a very
fine.
good point. But I also believe that was the intent from the very beginning.
Okay.
That was our understanding as we move forward
The
with
board
this.
policy needs to be approved here,
Right.
but the AP was for information.
Right.
Okay, and if it just says for information and then
Right.
take it out to your groups, and obviously if someone has input, and we'd be happy to get it back.
Share it with them.
And we are, always interested in.
Of course, as we are too.
in trying to work that way.
Valerie Redwood from the Senate, from the Faculty Senate.
Yeah, our understanding was that it was an information item, and we put it on the agenda yesterday, and I think you received feedback from people.
Okay.
I don't think it's necessary to bring it for a second
Right.
read, because you're not
Uh-huh.
obliged to incorporate any of
Right.
our feedback, so it would,
Okay.
yeah.
What about the board policy itself? It requires approval by this body. The board policy, there's no, go ahead, Jim.
I would say maybe we should just modify the agenda to reflect that, just so it's indicated the board policy is for the approval.
Yes.
But as indicated, the administrative
Yes.
policy is just
Yeah,
for
because the way- yeah.
information item.
Okay.
So that way we as,
Do I hear a motion to go back and amend the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we will go back and amend the agenda to reflect that. For discussion and consultation, BP 71 will cross AP from that, performance evaluation of administrators for approval, BP, right? And then, where would we put the information? We'll have number 4?
We'll do it as number 3, and 3 will become 4, and so on down the line.
All right, so we'll go to a number 4, then there will say for information, AP 7150. Okay? All
Okay,
right?
I'm sorry, just so that I'm crystal clear as to how this is looking, could you repeat that?
Okay.
Yeah.
We are amending 3
Yeah.
for discussion and consultation. Number 1, we are crossing out AP from that. Okay, it says BP/AP right now, we will remove AP from that.
Yeah.
Then we're going to add a bullet number 4 right before 6 that will say for information. And then there will be only one item under it, and that will be AP 7150. Right? Okay, for information. All right.
And we'll update on that on the web as well.
Okay, any discussion on, so we passed that one, right? Okay. So now let's go back to 3.1 now, BP 7150 for approval. Do I hear a motion to approve your BP 7150?
Moved.
Second.
Discussion.
So I will present this at the October 21st Classified Senate meeting for informational purposes.
No, we're talking about BP 7150.
Just
The BP, this is the board
the board
policy.
policy.
That one needs to be voted on. The change is only changing, it is the policy of the Pasadena Area Community College into the district shall ensure. And the next one is changing the date July 31st to August 31st. That's not a content change. Any other discussion?
So Deborah, we are, for all of our clarification here, we are voting now to approve that.
The BP, the board policy,
Just the
just
board
this change, just this change, that's it.
Okay. Well, I'll still present it at my Senate meeting because I've told my Senate board that that it's going, and I also did advise them that we were looking at it today at College Council at this
Okay.
special meeting.
Okay,
But I would be more comfortable letting them look at this, even if it's after the
Right,
fact, because
right.
I want it
Okay.
to be crystal clear, like what we're doing and what we're reading and who's reading it and stuff.
Okay.
So I will still
All right.
put it on my agenda.
Okay. Any other discussion, Bob?
I just want to say, there's an important concept here and communication issue here, which is on things that unless they are so tied to the individual area that no one should have any opportunity for input, I think sticking with the first reading, second reading thing always makes sense. It's very possible that the comments back will be rejected for whatever reason, but still, to give the opportunity for people to at least weigh in on some of this
Mhm.
stuff seems healthy to me. And, so I
Right.
just wanna encourage that we do the first, second, whenever
Right.
we possibly can.
Any other comment? So we've had a motion, we've had a second. Vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Okay, we have 2 abstention, all right. Okay, now for the AP, we will bring it back, right? The various groups will get a chance to listen to share it with their constituents. We'll bring it back for approval in, at the November meeting if possible, right?
I have a question.
Yes.
If you look at the BP, it's the performance evaluation of administrators.
Mm-hmm.
AP, under the reference, the performance evaluation of the executive officers and administrators of the college.
It's the same, the title is still the same, performance evaluation of administrators, AP 7150 at the top.
Right, but if you look at the one
No, that's the reference language. It's accreditation
so
standard
it's only
3.
for administrators.
This
Means
is
the
just for
dean- Only for the
administrators.
deans.
No, it's all managers,
All managers,
managers.
this is for
except for the
administrators.
president.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay,
Because there was a question and
Yeah.
wasn't sure.
Yeah, it's all
this is for all
managers.
administrators.
Everyone except you, I mean,
Yes,
the
because
president.
yes, yeah.
Gotcha.
And even mine, I think,
So
falls
the
under
alternates,
that.
all classified
Wait,
managers, all.
I think there was a
Separate,
question.
Yes.
Somebody asked a
from our
question
area
about
was
that.
what do we
For
get
the
to
The president has a separate
That's a good
board
question.
policy and
What's that?
administrative procedure related to his evaluation.
Right.
And do we get to see that?
Well, they maybe resign that thing that was in an error in the number of the policy.
It's been the same one since it was changed when Mark was here.
I
It's
think
online.
that's-
Listen, I'll tell you that, if you want to participate in my evaluation, you want to give feedback on my evaluation, you are all welcome to send anything you
Bring it
want.
on.
I don't have a problem with
Put it
that.
on film saying that.
Okay, I do not have any problem. We are taping that. I have no problem with that. I have absolutely no problem with faculty and staff being part of my evaluation process. I mean, giving feedback. I have no problem with that.
That was a question that we
There was a
got
question.
yesterday, so,
Yeah.
so how would we go about giving you feedback? Are we just sending an email, Facebook
You could send an email to the
message?
board if you want. I have no problem with that. Or on the day the board will do my evaluation. I mean, that is an agenda item, right?
Should be.
It should be it is an agenda item. You could have people lining up there and giving their feedback in open session, in public comments.
Okay.
Well, believe me, I have no problem. No.
Next today?
And Valerie,
I'm looking at the union guys, they're smiling, so.
if you raise your hand so fast.
Yes, Joe?
You know what, we're gonna give you the same role of take a number that we give everybody else.
There was a request from one of the senators yesterday, and I think it's a reasonable one, although I wasn't prepared to provide that information for her and for the rest of the Senate yesterday. I'm certainly able to do that, given in the spirit of disclosure and given in the spirit of allowing them to see an instrument which they may, the completion of which they may participate in directly. So I will make that available to you for distribution as you wish.
Bob?
Respectfully to what you're saying, Dr. Vivian, because I agree that that's a very healthy way to go about it. I think, however, that we need to communicate to at least the board officers the desire of the campus
Yes.
to be involved, and that there should be a process created by which they can participate. And I would think that the better recommendation from this body through you to the board officers would be that there's consensus among the college council that there should be an opportunity for college constituent groups to participate. So please work with maybe representatives or come up with a suggestion that they can consider, and we can go ahead and memorialize that
Right.
as a function, as opposed to get up in front of public comment.
I am perfectly fine with that, so maybe if, Ryan, you want to work with,
Yeah.
you want to work with the faculty senate, the classified senate?
But just for clarification, in the memorializing of the process, what we're actually talking about is adjusting the administrative procedure as well, right?
Whatever we need to do to
Or not.
basically, and I'm not sure I agree with that, I don't know exactly. what you're
I'm
talking about.
asking.
Well, I don't know what you're asking precisely, but I think the point that I'm trying to make here is in relation to superintendent president's evaluation, a formalized process by which campus constituent groups can participate that is agreed to by the board and by the college
Okay,
president.
let's listen to Cynthia, and then I'll give you my synthesis of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Cynthia?
Okay, so in the past, we did have an administrative procedure that provided the campus members with an opportunity to submit feedback about the president's performance. And so I think that it would be very simple for us to review that language so that we can perhaps reinstate that.
Okay. Okay, Julie.
So that's separate from this discussion.
No, this is
right?
completely separate from
Okay.
this, separate from this. Look, I want you to tell you one thing though. I am not prepared to get the board to make a commitment for future president's evaluation. I can talk about my evaluation. I would be very willing, I've already told you that, if you could work with Ryan to draft something that will apply only to my evaluation. Now, if the board is going to be looking at the evaluation of future presidents, if there's going to be a change in the board policy, that's something that,
And for
Can be
complete clarity,
considered.
it's a board bylaw, so it's the board who changes that.
okay, so I'm not, here we're not asking to change anything. Since you've said to me that you want to see participation in the evaluation of the president, right? So I am very happy to work with you to come up with a process that will allow you an opportunity to provide feedback to the board in a formalized manner. But I am not prepared to go to the board and tell them that they need to change their bylaw. That's the board can do whatever the board wants to do with its bylaw for the evaluation of the president, right?
So Dr. Verdian, we did have that in place until Dr. Rocha and the board changed it. So I mean, it's a matter of dusting whatever we had on the books off and doing that again. I think it's probably that simple. Because we did have actual paperwork went out to people on campus and you'd fill it in, and just like any other
Right.
high-level manager, like a certain pool of people was sent a form and you filled it out and sent it back.
Right.
I will work with both, and I'll look at the old procedure which we have in our accreditation documents. And I think the biggest issue that people have with the current board bylaw is that the board won't receive anonymous feedback. Is that something?
I don't think it has to necessarily be anonymous.
Anonymous feedback, I mean, I think if somebody has something to say, it shouldn't be
But
anonymous.
maybe not an
Right.
evaluation.
No feedback should be
Right.
anonymous, especially if it is an evaluation. No feedback should be
No,
anonymous.
I agree.
Bob and then Julie.
Uncle Julie, go for it.
All of our student evaluations are anonymous every semester of all our lives. And
That's true.
if you have somebody that you're working for, it puts you in a very tenuous position to give your name when you need to give honest feedback about that person, particularly when they're in charge of your personal outcomes.
The person who is being evaluated does not get to see the names, but the evaluator knows who is saying what about whom. That information is not anonymous. The evaluator gets to see that, but that information is never shared with the evaluee.
Okay.
Because you will see the form that goes out, you have to sign that form. For the evaluation of high-level administrators, the person, you sign the form, but the evaluee never gets to see that.
So for the purposes of time, and also to we've come to a good point of next step, which is we've agreed that there should be a formalized process. You're very willing to accept that
I am
process.
fine.
Ryan will work with the constituent groups to begin to line that up, and we'll bring it back for further conversation.
Okay. Absolutely.
You were not here for the first part. They were asking about my evaluation. I said I have no problem, absolutely no problem.
So we're gonna memorialize something and bring it back and make it formal.
Okay, so we've approved our board policy, and we're bringing the administrative procedure back in November, correct? And that's after you guys take it for an information item.
Yes,
You've
ma'am.
already had it for an information. You'll take it for an information item on 10/21, and then we'll bring it back to College Council in November, and then hopefully we'll be done. Okay.
So we're done with this one. This I'm done now, right? So I guess we've gone from
Number 1
3
to
to
number
4, and now we're going to number 2, right? 3.2, strategic plan for approval.
This strategic plan is the reason we decided to have this extra meeting, to make sure that the Academic Senate had a chance to have input on this. Both the Academic Senate and Classified Senate have approved the language that is in front of you. The yellow highlights represent what was changed as a result of feedback from the original that went out at the beginning of September. Joe, did Management Association feel comfortable voting?
They received this.
Okay. So, unless there's any questions, all groups have signed off.
So I move to approve.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries unanimously.
It will be uploaded in annual updates by the end
All
of the
right.
He'll be doing it across the quad.
Announcements. Any
I
announcements?
think you should take a moment to appreciate what just happened.
See?
A lot of hard work and effort.
Hey.
So,
Thank you,
We-
Ryan.
I think we've sent in the congratulatory letters to everybody, right? Thanking everybody of that.
Yep.
We'll put that cart before the horse there.
No, we congratulated them on the integrated plan.
Oh,
Now I have to
okay.
set out a second one, congratulating
All
them
right.
on this.
Well, and I'd like to thank Ryan. He went out of his way to attend a special meeting that the Senate called when the Senate had some questions about it. So he's really gone above and beyond, and I really appreciate all of his effort. He's doing a great job in his role,
Okay.
trying to get these things together to all of our benefit, which is to help accreditation.
Very good. Are there anyone else wanting to say something about Ryan?
I agree.
I would save it for his evaluation.
Wait till you're
You're
nominated.
assuming you're assuming you will be the one, huh? All right. Joe, you wanted to say something?
I'm also.
I have an
Brian?
announcement. So,
want to
there's
say something about
quick,
yourself.
quick issue that I want to bring up, which is the Academic Senate is voting on the equity and the SSSP plans on October,
26th.
and our meeting is supposed to be before that.
We pushed back equity, right, from that meeting, or we kept it the same?
Oh, equity, yes, equity was pushed back,
We
but
pushed
not
back equity,
triple
so
SP.
just triple SP.
But the triple SP is due by October 31st.
Yes.
So what I would respectfully request is that we try to have this meeting the 5th. I think Marina, did we find a date that looked good? The 28th or something? There was one that you said all the classified couldn't do.
The 29th
Maybe
they
the
cannot
29th.
do because that's your party, right?
Did we find a
Oh.
a
I mean, we
date?
could do
Yeah.
it before or after the party.
You could convene, yeah.
Before the party. We'll hold you up and
You
tell
don't
you
need
about
for this.
So is everybody comfortable, once again, just with rescheduling that meeting to make sure that we approve the SSSP on an appropriate timeline?
Do we have a date that you guys are trying to figure out?
That's what we're trying to figure out. Are we okay with, okay.
And the classified senate has already had that document in their hands since my last senate meeting, so
Okay.
we'll take a second look at it on
So
the 21st.
then our meeting will not be on the 22nd, it will be the following week.
The 29th?
29th before or after?
Yeah, I mean, afternoon's great,
After.
yeah.
Afternoon on the
After-
29th work for folks?
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second, all right? All in favor?
Aye.
I guess we're adjourned now.
Okay.